Now what we're going to do is build a billing profile. So this profile is going to be associated to either a guest user or an authenticated user. So we can have one sort of uniform thing. Now with a guest user, one email might have a lot of billing profiles, whereas the authenticated user is only going to have one billing profile. And the reason for this has to do with the payment processor token. So we can associate a billing profile to the email, but every time this user starts the checkout process again, we need them to re-enter their email and probably re-enter some address related stuff, right? So if you're a guest user, it shouldn't, from the guest user's perspective, it shouldn't remember any of your stuff. Now, from our perspective, we do need to remember those things. Also, if that guest user ends up turning into a user, we might want to associate previous orders with that particular email that user is using. So let's go ahead and create this billing profile. And of course, I'm going to make a brand new app for it. So start app, billing. And this comes back to the process, like why am I making a new app? This has everything to do with just generally what these apps should be doing. They should be doing one thing and one thing well, right? So like the orders, that handles all of the orders. It handles that really well. Yes, you could potentially put orders inside of billing, but billing is really about, for us, it's really going to be about the billing profile and actually running transactions. So if we had transactions, right? So once we do actually charge these things, we might even have a separate app that's going to be completely for transactions, or we might have it inside of our billing app. Hard to say right now because of the complexity of it. Like if we make it very, very complex, then yeah, we probably would. As in if we had multiple payment processors and multiple billing attributes and whatnot, we might end up having a completely separate app for the transactions outside of this billing app itself. But for us right now, all we have to focus on is the billing profile. So we'll call it billing profile, and it takes in models.model. And the first thing is, of course, we want to have a user, and we need to have a foreign key to that user or a direct relationship association. So we need to import from Django.conf, we need to import settings to get that user. So user is at settings, auth, user, model. Okay, and we've already talked about this, but I want to allow any guest user to be able to log in here. So I'll just say null equals to true and blank equals to true. The next thing we want is an email. So models.email field. This one is going to be required. So I'm just going to leave it as that. And that's pretty much all I'm going to set, other than I will put a time stamp here. Models.date time field. And we'll just say auto now add equals to true. And we'll also put updated in here as well. So like the last time it was updated, auto now also equals to true. We probably actually don't need the updated. The last thing is active. We'll say models equals to Boolean field. And the default is true. Now, we're not going to handle this just yet, but basically when a guest user then becomes a logged in user, we want to make sure that all the guest users, the old email guest users, are no longer active, right? So they have to go based off of that one user model. So what this means is, in theory, one email, so like say for instance, abc at teamcfe.com, not a real email address, but what if that one email could have like 1,000 or 100,000 billing profiles? And that's okay, but the user abc at teamcfe.com can only have one billing profile. So all of these other ones would have to be invalid. That's kind of the gist of what we're going to end up doing with this here. So let's go ahead and make the str method. And we're going to return self.email. So this also means that, hey, we probably want to have a way to get or create this billing profile based off of the user or the email. I actually don't have to do it I don't have to have my own custom manager for it because I will have one. So we'll see what that means in just a moment. But the other thing is when a user is created, I want to automatically make this billing profile. And the other part of this is like if you had a customer ID in like Stripe or Braintree or any of the other sort of payment processors, you could put your customer ID right here on this billing profile. I'm just going to leave a note for that because we're not going to cover that just yet. But I will leave a note for it. So in the future, if I do want to stick with that, that's what I'll do. So I also want to create this billing profile when a user is created. And since I'm building this model now, I might as well handle this now. And I'll do from django.db.models.signals import post save. And then we're just going to say define user created receiver. And it's going to take in sender, instance, created, args, and keyword args. And all we're going to say here is if created, then the billing profile dot objects dot create, or rather we'll just do get or create user equals to instance. Of course, the instance is going to be the instance of the user model, so we have to do our post save connect here. So post save connect and the user created receiver sender equals to the user, as in the user auth model right here. So this will actually create it for us. Whenever a user is created, they will automatically get a billing profile created. Hopefully this should ring true. If you're looking at this, you might be like, oh, wow, I can do this for a regular profile as well. Yes, you absolutely 100% could, and you might consider doing that. So in this case, I'm just making sure that, hey, this is going to create my billing profile for the user. So this is really user only. Now, if I were to do something like a customer ID, I'll just go ahead and make it, and I'll just say billing profile receiver or billing profile created receiver. Same arguments in here. And then I would just say if created, then I would say print, send to Stripe, Braintree, and then save, instance dot customer ID equals to new ID, and then instance dot save, right? That is what I would end up doing if I had a customer ID there. Just little previews as to what these things are. So this would be an actual, like an actual API request that would return something like a new ID. But again, we're not doing that yet. Just want to give you a little preview of things to come. So now we've got this billing profile. Let's go ahead and go into our settings here. And we're also going to, there is one thing that I might consider doing, and that is saying unique equals to true. So this is just a validator to make sure that, hey, one user has only one billing profile. And then it also allows this to never really run into an error. This get or create means that, hey, there's only one there, right? Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, we'll see why it works with unique equals true in just a moment. So now in our apps, in the settings, we're going to add in billing, save it, and then Python manage.py, make migrations, and then Python manage.py, migrate. So here is something that's really cool about Django and some of the things that go forward is it gives you a warning saying, hey, you put unique equals to true on a foreign key, you might use a one-to-one field, which is actually what we should do. So 1-to-1 field. What that is basically saying is, hey, this is a unique thing. You can't have more than one user. That's what we'll end up doing. But I just want to show you what this foreign key does with unique equals to true in the first place. We'll Python manage.py migrate, and then I'll run, or I already have the server running in another one, so it's here. We will fix this, so not to worry. And then we'll go from.models, import the billing profile, and then admin.site.register, billing profile. And I will say unique equals to true can be on, I think it can be on any field. You probably wouldn't do it on a timestamp. That might even raise errors, but definitely on email, you could do unique equals to true. In this case, we don't want to do that. So I'm going to come back into my admin. I am logged in, obviously. So if I click here, I go to add billing profile. Obviously, my CFE user, I want to have a profile. So I'll do abc@teamcfe.com and we'll hit save and continue. Cool. So that's actually creating it. If I try to make a new one with the same thing, we'll say abc@teamcfe.com and I hit save and continue. It already says billing profile with this user already exists. So this same sort of error would happen with any field that would make sense, right? So I'm going to take it back to being 1-to-1 field. What all this means is one user can have one billing profile and that's it. I'm going to get rid of this unique equals to true clause. And then we're going to run our make migrations here and then migrate. And there we go. Okay, cool. So now it's going to work the same. So I'm back in here. I'll hit save and continue. Exact same error, exact same functionality, but it gives us a little bit of a leg up when we try to access our billing profile, which we'll see a little bit later. But for now, we have the ability to create these billing profiles. The one last thing I want to check is to make sure my user created receiver is working. So inside of users, I'll just create another user, ABC123, and then ABC123. We'll hit save and continue. Oh, that doesn't work. So just whatever. There we go. And it did, most likely did create our billing profile, but we actually have a little bit of an issue. And that is it doesn't have an email. Even though it's a required field, it will still create it. It will still save it based off of that, right? So this unfortunately is not allowing us to create this user based off of all of the things. So all I'm going to do here then is I want to make sure I also didn't even put in the email. So I'll do instance.email. And I'm really only going to run this if created and instance.email. Then it'll actually create that for us in the future. Again, something I'm not really going to cover at this point. But the main thing here is that it actually did run and create that billing profile, albeit an empty email one. So I will delete that because we don't want it anymore. In fact, I'm going to delete both of them because we don't want them anymore. But I will go to my user, that CFE user. I will put in here CFE@teamcfe.com. Again, not a real email. And we'll go ahead and hit save here, or at least it's not one now. But now we have the ability to make sure that our user has this email. Now, in our registration process, we have that email there. So when a user would register, it would definitely come through and versus in our admin, right? So that's where this is actually happening. So since what I just did happened, we will have to account for this whenever we're trying to create this get or create call or getting this particular item or this billing profile when we actually go to use it. So we'll see that very soon. Anyways, stay with us.